Hi everyone, my name's Bree and I'm the Community Awareness Worker at Headspace Mildura. Today we're speaking with Bonnie and we're going to ask some questions about body image and eating disorders because it is now Body Image and Eating Disorder Awareness Week. So welcome Bonnie, do you want to just explain what your role is, please?
Sure, thank you. Hi everyone. My name's Bonnie. I'm a dietitian that works at Sunraysia Community Health. So I work with a lot of eating disorder clients, and my role within that field is basically to help educate people with eating disorders, help educate their families, the clinicians working with them, on what to eat, and how to navigate some of the disordered eating they're experiencing. So making sure people are getting all their nutritional requirements, but also how to achieve this when we're experiencing an eating disorder.
Perfect, thank you. So just jumping into, so what is the importance of nutrition and what can happen if we don't give our body what it needs?
Okay, so I often ask my patients, why do we eat, which can give us some good answers as to why we need nutrition. So we eat for energy, so we can get up in the morning, so we can go to work, so we can go to school. We need to eat so we can fuel our brain. So obviously our brain controls a lot of the different systems in our body. And if that's not working, they're not working very well. Our brain helps regulate our emotions, our moods. It lets us learn things, helps us make decisions, hopefully the good ones. So if we're not fueling our brain, those things can come a bit lax. We also need to eat and get all the right nutrients so we can have strong, healthy bones, so that our muscles are nice and strong and functioning, just so we can do simple things like stand up, go to the toilet, but also if we want to go to the gym, if we're playing sports. If we don't satisfy our nutritional needs, there are a few things that can happen, but basically as a whole, our body doesn't function as well. So if we look at our body like the machine, nutrition is the fuel. If we don't give it the fuel, it slows down until it doesn't work at all. We can do irreversible damage to our major organs, to our bones, to our fertility. And these are a lot of things that we don't think about until we're a little bit older, but they're things that can happen if we're not giving ourselves the right nutrition. More specifically, our heart, if we're not eating well, our heart can be affected. If that's not pumping right and pumping strong, obviously that can influence our quality of life and our overall health. But a lack of nutrition is far more than just the physical stuff. It has a profound effect on a lot of other things, mental, socially, our relationships, so all those types of things.
Yeah, so it sounds like it really impacts every aspect of your life.
I could probably talk for a good half an hour what happens to someone when they're not getting enough nutrition. But yeah, it's every single part of their life. It's their whole well-being that's affected.
Yeah, so it must be really important to get that good nutrition. So jumping into, so what does it mean to have a positive body image?
To have a positive body image basically means you have an acceptance and appreciation for your body and the functions that it does. You don't have to love your body. I hate that. I think you just need to accept it and know that it has all these functions that we need daily, and we need to keep that positive, because if it's negative, we can tend to do more harm to ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. So can you describe what an eating disorder is and what are some of the more common types you might see?
So we do see more common types. In total, there are 7 eating disorders. But an eating disorder is a serious mental health issue, serious mental illness with extreme concerns around weight, shape, appearance. The concerns then lead to disordered eating and unhealthy patterns of behaviour, which then can be arranged depending on what sort of eating disorder you have. There are 7 eating disorders in total. We mainly see bulimia nervosa, anorexia nervosa, binge eating disorder, ARFED and OSFED in our clinic, but there are 7 in total.
And what are some of the early signs that someone may have disordered eating tendencies or have an eating disorder?
There's not one single early sign, just like there's not one single cause to an eating disorder. When we're talking about eating disorders, it's not a diet taken too far, it's not a lifestyle choice, it's a serious mental illness. And some signs are really obvious. Some signs you don't really pick up until you have a conversation with someone. Probably the biggest thing that can put us at risk of an eating disorder is dieting. Now, dieting is being very socially accepted. We see it on the news, we see it on our TV and social media. Dieting can look like a range of things. So dieting can look like clean eating, avoiding sugar, avoiding whole food groups, so things like carbohydrates or fats. It can also look like calorie counting. It can look like juice cleanses. It can look like a change in preference for food, so avoiding gluten. Oh, I now get an upset stomach when I eat bread, so I avoid gluten. Other signs, early signs of eating disorders can be changes in weight. So we commonly look at eating disorders as a rapid weight loss, but nowadays we're also seeing that you don't have to be underweight to have an eating disorder. So changes in weight. It could be someone who's going up and down all the time because of that yo-yo dieting. Fatigue. Again, back to if we don't have enough nutrition, we get very fatigued. Someone who might have disordered eating or eating disorders tends to feel cold all the time. So it can be a lovely day outside, but they're all rugged up. They'll have a preoccupation with weight, shape, and appearance. So they have a lot of emphasis on that. They hold that to a high significance. They may talk about diets, they may talk about their weight loss, or they could do the opposite and not talk about it at all. Some other early signs can be excessive exercise. Now, again, like some of the other things I've mentioned, can be a bit subjective. What is excessive exercise? Someone can justify running every day if they're training for a marathon. What becomes a problem is if they're running every day, but they're also running through injuries. Or if they can't exercise, they get super distressed and they might have a little bit of a meltdown. Other early signs could be avoiding social situations with food. So not going for tea for that person's dinner, working through morning tea when Karen has a birthday cake or something. So it can look like a lot of different things, and we can't really judge an eating disorder or diagnose an eating disorder based on one thing. And what you mentioned before, Brie, about the disordered eating or an eating disorder, they are two things too. So an eating disorder is the mental illness. Disordered eating are a pattern of behaviours. So you can have disordered eating and not have an eating disorder, but it does put us at higher risk.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's really tailored to the individual, and you really need to look at how it's affecting their life and tailor your support in line with that.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really good point to make, that you can have disordered eating, and when it tips over to an eating disorder, it's based on frequency, severity, and how much it's affecting that person's day-to-day life.
Yeah, absolutely. So what can someone do to get support if they are experiencing an eating disorder?
Yep, so thanks to COVID, there is a lot of online resources you can access. There's also a lot of face-to-face resources. It depends what the individual is more comfortable with. The local headspace, like in Mildura particularly, but obviously in any area, offer a range of services and support for young people who think they might be experiencing some disordered eating or they're not feeling great about themselves. The online things are like the Butterfly Foundation, which is a fairly common one. They have a national hotline or helpline that you can call. Reachout.com is another one. Eating Disorders Victoria is another helpful resource. And when I say resources, obviously the person with the eating disorder, it is really important that they seek help, but you're also going to have friends, carers, parents, even clinicians wanting to reach out and get some extra information and guidance of how to deal with this sort of condition. So all those places can help with that stuff.
Fantastic. So yeah, it sounds like it's just really important to start the conversation and reach out, because there are a lot of avenues of support someone can access.
Yeah, and sometimes having that conversation with an individual or a loved one that you think might have an eating disorder can be very scary and a bit like, what do we do? And parents in particular, when I talk to them, they'll say they're just getting upset, they don't want to talk about it. And I think it's important to recognise that it is a really difficult illness to navigate, and as long as you remain calm, open, non-judgmental, and not try to put any blame on the person, that's a really good starting point to have those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on today, Bonnie. This has been really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.